The sun had climbed in the desert sky, Dubai sparkling beneath its watchful eye. Crowds gathered, hearts alight with cheer, for marvels of flight engineered with care. Steel birds born of human dreams, glinted in sunlight with polished gleams. The roar of engines, a symphony grand, a testament to skill and steady hand. But fate, unbidden, moves unseen, turning joy into a haunting scene. A twist of time, a shudder, a scream, shattered the heart of a collective dream. Smoke curled where hope had flown. Echoes of lives abruptly unknown. Parents, friends, and strangers alike were bound by grief on that fateful strike. The world held its breath in sorrow's grip, eyes wet with tears that would not slip. Each soul a story, a life once bright, extinguished that day in cruel daylight. Flags fluttered mournful in the wind, as whispers of tragedy quietly pinned. The Indian plane, proud in design, had fallen silent on that skyline. In every heart that watched it descend, a prayer, a gasp, a silent end. Questions lingered in the smoky air. Why such brilliance was snatched so unfair? The sun dipped low, yet hearts burned bright, now shadowed by sorrow in fading light. Witnesses stared, mouths agape, as dreams of flight met a bitter shape. A roar turned to silence, a cheer to wail. Life's fragile thread seemed so frail. The desert sands bore witness that day to fleeting beauty swept away. Eyes that had sparkled with awe and delight now glistened with tears heavy as night. Hands held tight in a trembling grip, as hope and despair began their slip. Each spectator a universe of thought, reeling from a tragedy they never sought. Children clung to parents' side, unsure of how to process the tide. Pilots of steel, hearts forged in fire, fell victim to fate's cruel desire. Their courage unyielding, now still, caught in destiny's unbending will. The media buzzed, voices on edge. A city paused on the precipice of dread. Each frame, each image a haunting sight of human endeavor swallowed by night. Yet even in grief solidarity bloomed, strangers united where sadness loomed. Hands offered support, eyes met eyes, in the shadow of those fallen skies. Flags lowered, bells tolled, in honor of lives fate had cruelly stole. Names whispered softly, prayers ascended. For souls departed, hearts offended. Families grieved, yet memories stayed. Of laughter and love never to fade. Stories told in whispered tone. Of flights completed and dreams flown. Engineers pondered, experts reviewed what caused the proud craft to be subdued. Safety, trust, human endeavor, all questioned in the echo of never. Yet from this darkness lessons rise, truths revealed beneath tear-stained skies, lives remembered, courage extolled, in every heart a story retold. Dubai's skyline, proud and tall, seemed smaller beneath sorrow's pall, but hope endures where grief has tread, and memory honors the silent dead. Among the crowd a father's hands shook, his daughter's laughter now only a look. A mother clutched a photograph tight, her heart shattering in endless night. A young pilot, dreams freshly sown, had soared the sky, now silent alone. He had imagined the clouds as friends, but the earth below brought bitter ends. Friends called names into the smoke-filled air, hoping, wishing to find them there. But the wind carried only echoes back of vanished lives along a fateful track. Firefighters ran with courage untold, through heat and debris, brave and bold. Each moment precious, each second a fight, in the battle to save those trapped in blight. Doctors rushed with hands and heart to mend what could not be, to do their part. Yet some wounds were beyond their skill, life extinguished against human will. Families embraced in trembling despair, finding fragments of hope were painfully rare. Neighbors arrived, strangers consoled, together the weight of grief they held. Journalists wrote, pens heavy with pain, chronicling loss impossible to feign. Images of bravery, terror, and grief, etched into memory a stark motif. A young child, clutching a toy plane, asked why the sky brought sorrow and pain. Her innocence, like a fragile flame, flickered and danced amid loss's name. In India, hearts broke in silent streets. As news of the crash spread in beats, prayers whispered over oceans and lands, grief connecting with invisible hands. The Dubai Air Show, once a festival of flight, now bore the weight of a darkened night. Yet in the midst of sorrow, a lesson appeared, of unity, courage, and hearts endeared. Though death had shadowed the sunlit skies, the spirit of human will never dies. Stories of valor, love, and loss would echo forever no matter the cost. The plane, a marvel of man's design, fell as a testament to fate's unkind sign. But every life it carried, every dream it bore, left imprints on hearts forevermore. The desert wind carried whispers of loss, each grain of sand bearing a heavy cross. Memorials rose where hearts did ache. Candles flickered for every life at stake. Photographs pinned to trembling boards. Names of the fallen in solemn chords. Flowers wilted, but love remained. A fragile testament that sorrow had trained. Pilots once fearless, engineers proud, now honored in silence away from the crowd. Their dreams etched into history's page. Heroes remembered beyond the stage. Families gathered in hushed embrace, seeking the comfort no words could place. Stories retold of laughter and cheer, of lives that had shone so brightly here. Journalists recounted with careful hand the tragic moments that none could withstand. Yet amid the pain, humanity shone. Acts of compassion, kindness shone. Dubai's skyline, majestic and bright, now held a shadow beneath its light. Yet the city stood resilient, strong, determined to honor, to right the wrong. Engineers studied, searching the cause, dissecting each motion, each mechanical clause, to prevent such sorrow in skies once free, to safeguard the future for all to see. Memories lingered in classrooms and homes, in whispers of wind and in children's poems. The plane, though fallen, inspired thought of the balance between what's earned and what's bought. Prayer flags fluttered in distant lands, messages sent through countless hands. From Mumbai to Delhi and further afar, the world united by grief's scar. Stories of courage, of rescue and aid, by heroes in uniforms unafraid. From smoke and flame, from debris and dust, rose moments of honor, moments of trust. The air show would continue, as it always might, yet never the same under sorrow's light. Each engine's roar, each plane that flew, now carried respect for lives that were true. Though tragedy struck, hearts did not break. In memory and learning, a future to make. And those who had fallen in sudden descent lived on in honor, in love, in intent. Across oceans and borders, the sorrow spread, a wave of grief for the silent dead. From bustling cities to quiet plains, the world mourned together for the fallen plane. Airports paused with a somber hush. Passengers moved with a gentler rush. Screens that once displayed cheerful flight now bore the weight of a tragic night. At embassies, flags hung low in air for those whose lives ended unaware. Officials met with solemn tone, discussing loss felt to the bone. In India, a mother stared at her door, hoping to hear footsteps once more. But silence answered her trembling call, and tonight her heart would face its fall. A brother lit a candle by the sea, whispering, "Return somehow, return to me." But waves carried only a whispered prayer, a fragile hope dissolving there. A child in Dubai, holding a toy plane, looked at the sky with innocent pain. He asked his father why planes fall, why fate answers no one's call. The father sighed with quiet care, unsure how truth should meet a child's stare. For how does one explain the blend of human skill and a tragic end? Pilots worldwide bowed their heads, honoring comrades now lying dead. They touched their wings with reverent grace, remembering courage none could replace. Airshow performers stood still that night, grounded beneath the fading light. Their hearts restless, engines mute, their passion trapped in a heavy suit. Technicians cleaned helmets stained with dust, tools untouched from shock and trust. For they too felt that searing sting, when flight, their art, lost its wing. A poet in Karachi wrote in tears, verses soaked with sorrowful fears. For tragedy knows no single land, it spreads through every heart and hand. A sheikh in Dubai stood before the press, voice steady but heart in deep distress. He spoke of unity, mourning, respect, of every life we must protect. He promised answers, support, and aid, so no grieving soul felt betrayed. His words became a healing thread, a balm for those who mourned the dead. Across TV screens the footage rolled, a tale of bravery and grief retold. Yet every replay deepened the ache, a reminder of what loss could take. But in the sorrow a truth appeared. Humanity draws closer when it's feared. In shared pain, nations intertwine, turning grief into a sacred sign. And thus the ripples grew far and wide, across mountain, desert, river, tide. For every life, every name that fell, the world felt the depth of their final farewell. The sirens wailed across desert ground, a piercing cry, a desperate sound. Ambulances raced with blazing speed, answering humanity's urgent need. Firefighters charged through choking smoke, their lungs burning with every breath they took. Through twisted metal and searing flame, they fought for lives without seeking fame. One rescuer knelt by a shattered wing, hearing the faintest whisper sing. A trembling hand reached through debris, a plea for hope for someone to see. He lifted the survivor with gentle care, shielding their body from blistering air. Though flames licked close and danger grew, his only thought was to pull them through. Another crew battled the spreading fire, their uniforms soaked, their muscles tired. Yet none stepped back, none slowed their stride. For courage thrives where fear resides. Inside the wreckage, time had slowed. Each second heavy, each breath bestowed. A pilot's voice, recorded and strained, spoke calm words though the cockpit pained. He told his co-pilot, "Steady, my friend," though he sensed the nearing end. Their hands worked controls with iron will, fighting gravity's fatal chill. He thought of his mother's gentle smile, his father's pride across the miles. He thought of the wings he'd loved since youth, of skies that always felt like truth. The wind screamed louder than any plea, as the plane dove toward its destiny. Yet till the final shattering breath, they held their post, defying death. Passengers prayed in trembling tone, each one terrified yet not alone. Some held hands despite the fear, finding comfort in being near. One woman whispered her children's names, vowing love through fear and flames. An elderly man recited a prayer, his voice soft yet filling the air. A young engineer, eyes wide with fright, watched hope dissolve in fading light. Yet he murmured, "Stay strong, stay brave," to those around he sought to save. In those last seconds, humanity shone. A shared heartbeat, a unified tone. No hatred lived, no anger stirred. Only the purity of a final word. Outside, the crowd stood frozen still, as fate fulfilled its ruthless will. A blazing arc, a thunderous crash, a plume of smoke, a lightning flash. Then silence swallowed the trembling ground, a silence heavier than any sound. The airshow, once full of cheers and pride, stood stunned as light and hope seemed to hide. But through the horror, heroes pressed, giving all, giving their best. They fought the flames until night grew deep, a promise to the fallen they vowed to keep. Doctors worked with trembling hands, their hearts heavy as desert sands. For every life they could not save, another candle lit, another grave. Yet in their eyes burned a sacred vow to mend the broken here and now. For even in grief's engulfing sea, humanity clings to bravery. That night, across continents wide, a hush spread slow like a falling tide. Screens glowed dim in countless homes, as news anchors read in trembling tones. The crash was replayed frame by frame, a moment etched with sorrow's flame. Families gathered, hearts in despair, as grief seeped softly into the air. In India, temples lit saffron light, prayers rising gently through the night. Names were read with voices low, each one a story the world should know. In Dubai, mosques echoed with prayer. A city mourning lives laid bare. People lined streets with tears in their eyes, honoring souls claimed by the skies. From Pakistan's mountains to Nepal's plains, the news carried sorrow in heavy chains. Neighbors, nations, citizens all felt the echo of the plane's final fall. A captain in Qatar stood tall and still, his chest overwhelmed by a silent chill. He saluted the fallen as pilots do, knowing the sky had claimed another crew. A mother in Kerala fainted in grief, her son's last call now unbearably brief. She whispered his name into the wind, hoping somehow it would reach him again. In Sri Lanka, a sister cried out loud, holding her brother's shirt like a shroud. She pressed it close as if life remained, as if love alone could reverse the pain. Messages poured from leaders of lands, offering comfort with extended hands. Condolences crossed oceans and time, soft as whispers, solemn as rhyme. At airports worldwide, staff stood still. A minute of silence, a shared goodwill. The beeping lights, the rolling carts, paused to honor broken hearts. Aviation groups around the globe gathered beneath a heavy robe of remembrance, duty, and respect for every loss they could not protect. Engineers reviewed with reddened eyes the complex truth of human skies. They vowed to learn, to strive, to mend, to guard the skies as friend to friend. Parents tucked children into bed, but answered questions with drifting dread. For how does one explain such fate, such sudden loss, such heavy weight? In London, flowers lined embassy gates, left by strangers with empathetic traits. In New York, candles lit the night, each flame a symbol of lasting light. In Tokyo, aviation students prayed for courage to walk the path they'd laid. They studied the tragedy with quiet care, knowing the risks they one day would bear. And through it all, a single theme: the fragility of every dream. For the sky, though vast and blue and bright, carries both wonder and hidden night. Yet humanity, through grief entwined, showed the strength of an unbroken mind. For in every tear that the world let fall, connection rose, uniting all.